So Michael's on his way over, and I wanted to record this while I have the moment, because I'm just playing video games. I play Elder Scrolls Online. I'm usually a tank, Grandmaster Wisdom. I think I can actually include that in the game. I think I did. Not in the game. Maybe I'll be able to include that in the movie, because it's kind of grounding me as a person. You talk about me as a tank and what that's like as a tank. But anyway, I'm playing Elder Scrolls Online, ran a few dungeons, and I was doing pretty good. I was thinking, you know what? I feel like I've got my mind back. Like I was able to get the mechanics down, and it was like rotating my skills. Everything seemed really easy. No, not two. I ran 3, and after the third dungeon, I got up and I was like, after the third dungeon, I stood up and I felt like I'd run a marathon. I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm exhausted. And I thought, well, maybe I'm coming down with something. It just felt like suddenly all the energy in the world was gone. And it took me probably a good solid minute before I realized, yeah, Joe, that's long COVID. Mental exhaustion will screw you up just as much as physical exhaustion. So thinking feels like a physical activity. It's physically draining. And I have to exercise it. That's why I play video games, because it helps me exercise my brain. It helps me think about, thinking 3 steps ahead and having iterations and do this in case this happens and do that in case that happens. And careful placement. I have to work on my anxiety. I have to keep it calm. I have to breathe, because if you're having a panic attack as a tank, your team is dead. So as a tank, you have to be the steady, calm one, and that's why I do it. I become the tank in Elder Scrolls Online because it forces me to stay calm when everything is facing me. It's like exercising. Exercising my body would be running, which I'm going to have to start exercising more soon. I'm going to have to start running, I think, or some sort of cardio, because I need to work on that. Like I need the video game because it helps me exercise my brain, even though it's physically exhausting. So just to continue my thoughts, I just had this was a, it looks like blood, but it's actually just a rosary. Let's do that. That's better. Lesson learned. I was in the middle of a very decent speech, and I had to stop because I ran out of memory on the phone, on the camera. Lesson there is empty the camera out on a regular basis, so that when you start recording, you start from scratch. Got like, I don't know, almost 30 gigs on there, which should be enough for a day of filming, right? But lesson learned: when you are going to start filming, make sure you've already done the backup first. Anyway, I was watching the video of Tyler Henry and DJ Qualls, and it reminded me myself of thinking it would be cool to have like a psychic boyfriend that was like Tyler Henry, but like older. If only Tyler Henry was older. And I had this thought of well, I'll meet older Tyler Henry one day. And then I met Michael. And I kept thinking how is it that he knows the things he does? And there's been so many times where I've had a moment where I've experienced stress or anger, and he has messaged me, not even been in the same room, in the same building. There's no way that he could have felt that, but he did feel it. So again, there's that evidence, there's some other type of communication. It's not just, if it was olfactory, then that there would be no distance thing, right? But I'm watching Tyler Henry thinking, how does he do the things he does? And it's because we're all connected. And he's just able to connect with previous versions, previous iterations of humanity. He can feel that. And, again, if we look at the fractal image, most all of what we are is just like the pinprick. The pinprick. The entire of humanity is, we don't see that, but that's the beautiful thing, is like how big and messy and complicated it is. That's the beauty of humanity. And I was watching these two people, and it's like watching two different versions of God talk to each other. It's like an intelligence talking to itself, learning, trying to work out a problem. And again, that's what it seems like humanity is. Like me as a person, I am moving through my life trying to understand something. And I bump into someone that helped me understand something. Often it seems like we meet our shadow, the part that we don't want to see. And we can decide what we do with that. I think that's the other part of, I'm reading the work of Gary Zukav. Again, and I read this a long time ago, The Dancing Movie Masters. And I can firmly admit that I didn't really understand it that much when I first read it. I kind of got it. I loved it reading, but I honestly, I didn't read it in 1978. I read it probably after he was on Oprah, so 20 odd years ago. And I understand the science a bit more better now, but he's got this one part here that it related, and I just, again, the whole everything's connected. I'm not sure why Gary Zukav has been on my mind, but he has been, so I just picked up this book while I was waiting for the camera to unload. So again, as the camera is unloading, I just happen to think, well, I'm going to read that Gary Zukav book, pick this up. And it's got a bookmark in it. So I thought, well, let me just check to see what the bookmark page is. Now, just to show you how old this is the bookmark here. This is the last time I read it. The bookmark is from a place called the Dawn Treader bookstore in Ann Arbor, which I think burned down a long time ago. I'll have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure it burned down a long, long time ago. But again, I got this here. This is probably where I stopped reading because it was too complicated at the time, but it actually makes, well, actually that makes perfect sense. So I might have actually put the bookmark in here because it was too complicated at the time. Now it's exactly the passage I needed to read to make sense of the video that I just said. Like it's exactly the passage I needed to read to make sense of the video I had just seen with Tyler Henry and DJ Collis, and the thought that I was thinking. Like it's the right passage because it relates back to science. And it's a concept in science that I didn't understand or didn't even really kind of get until recently. And it's a single proton theory. It's a theory that, this is what it's saying, it's on page 247 of Dancing Movie Masters. Because all protons are identical, we can assume that the original proton can... Say that again. Because all protons are identical, we can assume that the original proton suddenly ceases to exist, and that, at the same point in space and time, another... maybe that doesn't... this is, I mean, it's... The problem with science stuff is it's... Single proton theory basically means that there is only one proton in all of existence in the entire universe, and it's just moving through time. Now there's math behind it that is way too complicated for me to understand, and I can't understand it enough to teach it to you. But that's just the concept, that in all of reality, there's one proton that is just moving back and forth throughout everything, which is a connectedness. So you could say that that proton is God. It's that thing that connects everything. Now, scientists would never say that because it's contradictory. And again, we can't prove that. I mean, I can say it, I could say the thing that binds us all together is Jello, or like anger. I can't prove that. But again, so that's why it can't be science, because it's not provable. But in philosophy, we can talk about that. In religion, we can talk about the thing that joins us all together. There is another way in which a proton can interact with itself. In addition to emitting and reabsorbing a neutral pion, a proton can emit a positive pion. Say that again. In addition to emitting and reabsorbing a neutral pion, a positron can emit a positive pion. Translation. If I'm putting that into terms of people, we're all iterations. And every interaction we have with the physical world and with each other, every interaction with the physical world and with each other, we have the choice in how we interact with that environment. And how we interact with that environment creates a different iteration of who we are. Every interaction creates a new iteration of me. So forget the multiverse. I mean, we live the multiverse, because every single decision we make could create a new version of who I am. It's fractal. So if you look at the fractal images are beautiful, because the further you go down, it's just further and further levels of complexity. Every choice you make is a good one. There is no wrong choice. So if you decide to look this way, there's going to be something interesting to see. And if you look this way, something interesting to see. And it doesn't matter. What you see in the fractal stuff is there's no going back. Because once you go down, there's been too much changes for you to go back. Because the world that existed before no longer exists. It just doesn't exist anymore. You've dug down too far. Which is why if you're holding on to what was exact, it's gone. It's literally not there anymore. You're in a whole new version of your reality because you made different choices. This is looking at a fractal image again. You keep digging down and it gets more beautiful and beautiful. And what chaos theory tells us is there are moments of stability and there are moments of instability. And sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's not. And when it's not beautiful, you just keep digging down. And when you keep digging down, eventually it's going to get beautiful. And if you start to see that it gets ugly, you can make a different choice, like on a fractal image. Just go on YouTube, whatever you got them. Fingerprint of God. You don't like what's happening over here, you can make a choice. Okay, so if you don't like what's happening over here, you can say, hey, I'm going to turn over here. I'm going to take it. But that takes a pause. And I guess that is what, I think that's what I've learned from meditation. That pause. That moment when you say, it's like you're frozen in space. And then again, I relate it to falling from the tower. Tarot card, falling from the tower, the one I've been terrified of. You're thrown out of your safety net. And I think about the Pink song. Just put out a song called Trust Fall. And my brain has been processing it. It's just, you're falling from a tower. It's a trust fall. The Fool, trust fall. Are you going to fall? What if there's no ground? And just that thought of it. I am falling, but what if there's no ground? Well, that means I'm flying. And you're flying, and you get to, once you're out of your safety net, once you've faced your fears, you get to decide where you go from there. Now, spiritual people have been saying that for a long time, that it's your choices that determines your outcome. And we get that now with artificial intelligence, inputs and outputs. I think humanity might be a bit more complex than is comfortable for us to think. comfortable for me to think. I don't want to think that I'm just an iteration of someone else. I want to believe that I am me, that I am unique. I mean, don't we all want that? We all want to think that we are unique. But why do we want to think that? Maybe we've focused on uniqueness enough. Or maybe not enough. I mean, the thing about the fractal images is every single part of it is beautiful. There's no part that's not beautiful. And I think that's humanity. It's like we are a fractal image. We're too small to see it. But God, could you imagine, just imagine for a moment if you could be inside the head of every human being for just 1 second. Just to feel all the different versions of reality all at once. That would be beautiful. What if we are just potentiality meeting feedback for a purpose that we can't understand? There's some, maybe it's not even about us at all. What if we are a computer system run by the planet? And this is where science ends. I think. Because there's no way that science could ever prove that, right? But what if we are just there's those creatures that live on our eyelashes. They serve a purpose, I guess. I mean, our bodies have developed around them. We don't see them ever. Thankfully. We're not aware of them ever. We're not aware of the things that... There's all sorts of organisms inside of our body that we don't pay attention to. We don't need to. I don't think we do. I don't think so. But again, that could just be... We don't really understand what our bodies are. I was thinking about the willful ignorance of that. Well, the example of not seeing what we don't... Well, to further the example I said about not seeing things as they are, like we don't see heat in the air. We don't see pockets of heat as it flows through the air because we don't need to. Now, I think if the human body could die, so if we were capable of dying if temperatures dropped by a couple of degrees, we would have better sensory organs for that, because our sensory organs, our bodies would need to keep us alive. Our bodies would develop organs that could sense heat. Because we don't need to sense heat with our eyes, we didn't go down that route. And that's just the variation, feedback. If the world changes, feedback, and we'll become different. Now, in my book series, this is a big spoiler because I'm going to spoil it here because it's going to take me probably another, at this rate, another 5 or 6 years before the books come out, so fuck it. In my book series, the aliens, the Greys, are called Nizarians. And they've shown up in at least 4 of my books. So the Greys, I call them the Nizarians, and in my book, they are future humans. They are time travelers from the future who are manipulating past events to better prepare humanity for the coming of the Ancient Ones, the Berserkers. Ancient Ones who created humans, and created humans here on Earth, and they created the humans on, the beings on the planet of Maeshir, I'm going to have to come up with a good pronunciation guide because I'm not even clear on how to pronounce those words yet. But I'm going to go with Mage Seer. I need to work on that. Anyway, so on both planets, they created races and then took off to the heavens to investigate something else. And maybe that's, on Earth it was humanity was created by them in my book series. To be clear, in my book series, not in reality, because I can't prove anything. And this is just a fun story. In my book series, humans were created as clones, initially by the Atlanteans, as a cheap workforce. So this is again, very kind of loosely based on the work of Edgar Cayce, which I always thought was, again, there's no science there, but it's a fun story, right? The idea of Atlantis. And then, anyway, the idea of Atlantis was, as I understood it, based on the readings that I've read. I read a lot about Atlantis to get ready for my book, but my understanding is there was two groups of people, and I don't remember their names right now because I haven't looked at it for a while. But they were one group. The story of Atlantis seems fun, an ancient civilization with space lasers that tamed dinosaurs. I've heard some really fun stories. Which is why I wanted to, I heard these stories this is the best thing ever, which is why I wanted to write about it. So again, in the stories, there could have been dinosaurs on Atlantis, and they talked about the ring city and all of that shit. Anyway, off topic. Two groups of people. After they had created artificial life, which would be the humans, there was one group that believed they were soulless automatons, incapable of thought, and another group that thought that they had souls. And those two factions fought over whether or not humans actually had a soul. And that battle actually ended up tearing them all apart. One's turning energy crystals into weapons, and then there was an energy misfire that caused a massive earthquake that made the island sink into the sea. And I don't know why we've never seen that story, because that would be a fucking amazing movie, wouldn't it? Why is that never been made into a movie? Doesn't matter. Off topic. What if we were created for a purpose? What if we are trying to figure out something? Now, the other thing that Gary Zukav was talking about in Dancing Movie Masters was about, I read this chapter on, as I was downloading stuff, living. The physics of physics as patterns of organic energy. We think we know what life is, but how do we know that trees aren't alive, aren't conscious? How do we know that rocks aren't conscious? Now, we look at them and I'm looking at these walls, they don't look conscious to me. They don't. I don't see anything conscious here. But the supposition is that, maybe they just move slower in time than you do. So maybe they are talking, but I can't hear their voices because their voices are so low and slow that my brain can't process it. There could be an entire conversation being had between the wall and the floor. It could be hello, but it takes 5 months for the word hello. Which again, that's crazy talking, right? That's the sort of thing that we can't really test for, can we? No, but I think we could test for that if we sped up time. And they've done a little bit of work on this. They're just learning now that maybe fungi are actually more intelligent than we thought. Maybe they actually have a language. Now the example in here is about plants, and if you do time-lapse video of plants, you'll see them move in ways that you can't if you are watching them with your naked eye. Again, because your tools can't process what's actually the real. The idea of organic is living, organic is being able to make choices based on input. I think I'm almost done for the night, which is good. I'm also realizing that a lot of my examples might end up in the book more so than the film series. I have to keep reminding myself that everything I'm filming, I can't recut into videos for YouTube. This is something that nothing is lost. I do want to tie in the example of the Green Knight. That concept of the Green Knight is he has to make a choice. He has a quest. He can go left or right. And if you go left, you have an adventure. And when the adventure ends, you have another adventure. Left or right. And every choice, every day, new direction. That was the point I have to get to. Like the finger, like that picture of God, the fractal image. I think there's math there. The math behind our choices affect the reality of what we see. Maybe life is really mathematically what you focus on. Practice. Life is what you practice. Small changes over time. Say it differently. Small changes done repeatedly over time can end up with sudden large changes. That's what I think about all these people that are overnight successes. No, they're not overnight successes. It's that they've just been doing things for a long time, and because of the butterfly effect, eventually that one extra thing that they do will be enough to create a large effect. And timing, maybe it won't, because it could, again, it doesn't always mean success, obviously, because not everyone can be. If it was like that, then everyone could decide to be a Hollywood star and become a Hollywood star. But again, as you move toward that path, you are presented with choices, and you have to decide what you want to do. Like right now, I was looking at choices for career. And again, I'm not super serious about this, but it's just, there was a job ad for a reporter in Surrey, BC. And I thought, you know what, if I was single, I could definitely do something like that. I could just fuck it. Just even take a loss on the apartment. I don't give a fuck, just go. Leave the province, never come back. I could do that if I was single. And some people would. Some people would look at the evidence in front of them and say, well, based on all the evidence I have in front of me, the thing that I'm going to focus on is my career. But you know what I focus on is I'm focused on Michael. Because he's fascinating. And I can focus on my career later if I want to. I mean, I'm obviously focused on my career a bit. I'm spending lots of time doing videos and shit. Getting comfortable talking to the camera and babbling and putting stuff on camera that I can edit out later. Even if it's just nodding. We are who we decide to be. And I think that's just math. That's just math. And there's some biology that dictates some. It seems like there's going to be some biology that dictates the limits to our success, where we rank. But any person can decide to be anything. And I'm trying to think of examples, but I remember I remember watching a woman who was fairly disabled. She had no arms, but she was a professional fiddle player, I think. maybe it's harder. Honestly, I think that's the barriers. The barriers of systemic racism and gaslighting create systemic racism, gaslighting. They create barriers that make it harder to succeed. But if you want it, you can keep pushing. And the more you push against that, eventually, over time, there will be a sudden, large change. Now, in political terms, they call that a revolution. It could be a revolution of your soul. And I think that's what it is. Like for a lot of people, I think that's what happened with my marriage. It was like small little things over time, and eventually there was that one little thing, which wasn't a little thing anymore, because that one extra little thing was now a big thing. And we're seeing that in the States, where the Republican Party has gone straight into fascism. And it didn't start there, but it was like little thing, little thing, little thing. And now they're kidnapping trans children. Not even that. They're kidnapping children if someone thinks the child might have been trans. So if I want to I don't like my neighbor, I can say, hey, my neighbor has a trans kid, and the state will steal their child. That's the state of the world we're at right now. It didn't start there. But the little thing over time, more choices, more choices, more choices. Our choices affect the world that we live in mathematically. And I get that in the spiritual woo-woo way, because again, I'm a spiritual woo-woo person. But I think it actually affects all of humanity. Every single person gets to decide if they are happy or positive. And when they go into the world, they are bringing that energy with them. It's extra feedback. So if the entire city you're in is all negative, you're completely surrounded with negative feedback all the time, how the hell are you supposed to succeed? Because that overwhelming energy is pushing you to be negative. Math.